Okay, so by now, hopefully, you are feeling pretty comfortable with the basics of functions and kind of the syntax that's involved with defining a function and calling a function. So, what we're going to be doing in this section, and this is a pretty hefty section, we're going to be looking at passing arguments to functions. So, don't forget you have the video from the author, and the link is also in Canvas, but it's on this slide too. And also, don't forget you can come back and review. So you might go through some of this video and then play with the code, mess around with some of the programming challenges. You can also come back afterwards and review this if you need a little clarification. Okay, so let's take a look at an argument. An argument is basically just a piece of data that's being sent into a function, so that then that function can use the argument in calculations or whatever you'd like to do. So when you're calling the function, the argument is what is placed in the parentheses following the function name. And we've been doing this since chapter 2. All right, so when we take a look at this, if we look at these two lines of code, just real basic things here, but we're saying age. We've got just a simple variable name here. So age equals 48. The next line, we have this. So we are saying in our next day, we're saying print age. And you notice this is in the parentheses. So again, we've been doing this since chapter 2. You're very familiar with this by now. Age is the actual argument that is being passed to the print function. So age here becomes our argument. All right, so that's the piece of data that's being sent in, and it is referencing the value, an integer value of 48. Okay, so let's take a look at a parameter value and how it works once it gets there. So I'm gonna switch over to this one, and we're talking about a parameter variable. A lot of times you'll just see it listed as a parameter, but a parameter variable, this is the variable that is assigned the value of the argument when the function is called. So if we kind of skip down here real quick, the parameter and the argument are referencing the same value, and the format looks like this. So we're defining whatever our function name is, and then we have some type of parameter variable in here that we will use. Okay, and the scope of that parameter is just in that function to which it's been assigned. Okay, so let's take a look at an example because it's a lot of terms there that we've got going on. So let's take a look at a quick example. So we've got a little partial code here, and we're defining a function called message. And then we have a parameter value that we're setting up that's called name, or parameter, this parameter variable right here, name. Could be, almost anything. Again, we're following the same type of, rules as setting up any kind of variable name. So no keywords, things like that. So we've got, our name right here. And then you can see that it's going to print and then reference this piece right here. Okay, so it's going to use this in the function. So the scope of name is in this particular function. And then down here, wherever this is called, we're saying message and we're taking, Jeff right here. And this is the argument. So Jeff becomes the argument. So you can see here, Jeff is the argument that's passed when the message function is called. And it is assigned to the name parameter variable. And so this is essentially saying name equals Jeff. I mean, for what we've been doing, okay? And then now, when it goes into the function, it will be able to use it. So let's take a look at this particular code. All right, so if we just run in here very quickly and take a look at how this works, I'm going to say visualize, and we'll kind of step through this. Okay, so we're setting this up. Here we've got, message being set up over here. And you can see that where name is listed there. That'll come up. So we've got our function set. And here it's going to call. So when I click next, we'll call it. Notice how it automatically sent that in. I haven't hit next again, so it automatically knew to send Jeff in here. Here's where, just like when you define a variable and you see it in Python Tutor, it's the same kind of a thing. So we've got our parameter variable now, name is equal to Jeff. So there's our string little Jeff, and we're gonna have that reference there. So now when I click next, it works just like a normal variable, and it will just simply say hello Jeff. And that is the end, no return value. Okay, so that's it. And you've been doing stuff like this already. We just haven't necessarily put these pieces together. So in this section, you'll get to do that. All right, so let's go back over here real quick. And let's look at a few other things. All right, so in this one we sent through for our argument, we actually sent through with Jeff, we just sent a string literal, but we could also send a variable through there, and that's typically what you'll see. So if we take a look at this particular code, we are defining, here's our main being defined. We have value as a variable name equals 5, and then show double, which is as we come down here, you can see show double is another function, and we're sending this particular value variable. That's our argument, okay? And it's referencing the value 5. It comes down and is sent into the parameter variable right here, number, and then number is used through here. Okay, so as you see, if you look at the code here, if you referenced in this code in the function, if you reference value, it's not going to work, because what we do is we passed as an argument, came through here, passed it in this parameter value, and now it's being referenced as number. But they're the same thing, so they reference the same value. Okay, so just two different names. So essentially, as we take a look at this, we're saying, okay, value here equals 5, number equals 5. So we're really just saying value equals number, which equals 5. Or you could reverse that, it doesn't really matter. Number equals value, which equals 5, right? So that's kind of we're stepping back. This comes from here, which comes from here. All right, so let's take a look at this code. All right, so here we go. So we've got, this is the live code, the link's right there. And I'm going to go ahead and hit execute there. Pull this up a little bit so you can see a little better. All right, so now I've got empty things over here. You'll see we're going to define main, then we're going to define show double. So we're going to step through here, and boom, we've got these functions all set up. Now we're calling the main function. So I'm going to click next again, come down here, and here we go with value. So here we are in main. Value is equal to 5. And then now we're going to call this particular function, sending value. So we've got value listed right here. And again, value is our variable that's being passed as our argument into here as number. So our parameter variable is now number, accepting this. And we're going to walk through it. So you notice it already set this up. Show double, here's number, here's 5. I'm going to click next in here. And it's going to say result is that times 2. And it's going to go ahead and print that right here. No return value. And that's basically it. Okay, so and you can review this more on your own. But typically this is what you'll see. You'll send something through. Typically it's a some type of variable that you've already defined, and then that becomes your argument, which is then passed through and sent to the parameter variable. Okay, so I want you to understand the concepts of this and how it works, and then maybe review some of the terminology after, because it makes more sense to you once you kind of understand how it works. And hopefully by now you're sort of seeing it. You've kind of got the hang of functions, and you're just sort of seeing how this works. Okay, so let's take a look just very quickly at passing a string literal. So if we were to do this. This is a little bit more of that basic code we saw before. So we have main, then we have our message function, and here is name again. So you saw this just a second ago, but let's just see this one work. So we have main, we have message, we're calling main, saying here's our little print, I have a message for you, and it's going into message, sending this string literal through. That's our argument coming through, and now we have accepted this. Our argument went through Jeff. It is now here with the parameter variable, and we're going to go ahead and print that out. So hello, Jeff, and that's it. All right. So it's hopefully you kind of get the hang of this. You'll get to play with this a little bit, see this code, step through it in Python Tutor, and check it out. And then let's take a look at some other things that we're going to add to this. And we're still here in section 5.5, but let's say, okay, great. So I'm sending one particular value in, right? So I'm sending one argument in, but I want to send multiple things. Well, of course you can do that. So let's take a look at that. If you go to the next slide, you'll see. So we're going to put these in. It's actually pretty easy to do. And depending on how you set these up, you're just separating things by comma. So if we want to send two different arguments in, all we're going to do is separate it by comma, and it will send two items in. The kicker is you have to have two places to receive it. So you have to have two parameter values to receive it then. They have to match up. So let's take a look at that. Here we go. So taking a look at this code here, we have main listed here, and we have print the sum of blah, blah, blah. It's this, and you notice it's sending these two values in. So show sum is being called, sending in 12 and 45. Those are then received in order, just separated by comma. The space here means nothing, but it goes in order. So we're going to send those two in, num1, num2. So this essentially says num1 equals 12, num2 equals 45. and then it's going to have this result variable, and it's going to say, please add those up and print them. Okay, so let's take a look. We'll follow this first link here and go ahead and go into Python Tutor. And here is the program, and let's take a look at it before it runs. So we have main and we have show sum. Those are our two functions, and you see the call down here. We're saying, okay, we're going to print the sum of 12 and 45, and then we're calling show sum using 12, comma 45. Okay, so again, this space doesn't matter, it means nothing, as you saw in the previous slide. So as we're taking a look at this, we're going to go ahead and see what this does. So this is 12 going into num1, 45 going into num2. So here we roll right through. So show sum, we'll see that, boom, 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 add those up, and there we go. So let's check it, take a look at this and watch it work. Okay, so I'm going to say next, next, and here are our two, oops, I scrolled too much. So we've got our two pieces here, so main and show sum. And we're going to go ahead now and run this through. There's my first print statement. Boom, there it is. And now we're calling show sum. So I'm going to click next. It's going to go to show sum. And you notice it's already assigned now. So here we go. Num1, the value 12. Num2, the value 45. So we can go ahead and click next and it will do result. Calculate it and then print right there. That's the end of our code. And we are done. Okay, so you can send additional ones if you'd like. I want to show you something though that does matter. Okay, as you're doing these, let's say that we're sending these through and I reverse these. So I say 45 and 12 here. So if I was to run this again, it does go in order. So the computer doesn't care. It just knows the first value goes in. There we go, boom. So as I call this here, you can see now num1 is 45, num2 equals 12. So it goes in order. So even if you have variable names that you're using, and you'll see, in fact, let's just look at this other one here real quick, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But you have names that you use for your variables and for your parameter variables, and they make total sense to you. The computer doesn't care. It's still going to go one for one. So this goes here, this goes here. If we have a third one, 3 goes to 3, 4 goes to 4, always. Okay, so we're gonna set it up that way. Okay, so let's take a look at this other one here. Let's look at the strings one. So this particular strings, we've got main, we've got reverse name. So in this one, it's just asking for a first name, asking for a last name, and then it's saying your name reversed is, and it goes into the reverse name function, and it will send first name to first, last name to last, and then it prints last, then first. Okay, so let's take a look. And we'll step through this. I'm going to have to type. It's a bummer. So I'm coming down here, and here it's saying, what is your first name? Okay, great. There I've got my first name in there. So perfect. It's now asking for last name. So I'll put that in there. Submit that. Boom, there's my last name there. So your name reversed is, I'm going to step through this. Boom. Here we're calling this, sending these values in. And then here we go. So you know his first name went to first, last name went to last, right here. And then we're going to go ahead and print these out. Okay, so your name reversed is, boom, and there you go. But this is where variable names make sense to you, right? But if you accidentally, as you're setting these up, put these in the wrong order, right? Something like that. First name still goes to last name still goes to first. Okay, so I'll just run through this really quickly so you can see it. So, wait for me to do my typing. Okay, last name, we'll just put H. And here we go. So as we're accepting those, here we go. Last is Jeff, first is H. Totally fine. Just a simple little logic here because in the way I set this up, I didn't mean to do it that way. Okay, so be very careful of that. All right, one last little piece to section 5.5. So the last little piece of section 5.5 is making changes to parameters. So just to show you how this works, you have you can look at this and you go, okay, changes made to a parameter value within the function do not affect the original argument. And so this is your pass by value. What this is doing is we're providing a one-way communication between one function and another. So the calling function can communicate with the called function, but if you change something, it does not impact the original value as you're going into this. So let's take a look. Let's take a look. what I mean here. So we're going to look at this particular code, and we're going to take a look at how this works. Okay, so we've got main, we're giving it a value, we're saying here's the value, then we're sending that into the change me function, making a change, all right, with this new variable, the parameter variable name that we're using here, and showing the value. And then back in main, you'll see right here that it will still reference the original one. This change here does not impact the original function where it was called from. So we'll take a look at that. All right, so here we go. I want to take a look at this code right here. All right, so here we go. So I'll kind of walk you through, and we'll see it in Python Tutor as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this down just a little bit more. Make sure I have lots of room. Okay, so I'm going to click next. Here we go with main. Here we go with change me. Great. And now we're calling main. So I'm clicking through here. So value equals 99. Boom. Here's our print. So value is 99. Great. Now we're going to call change me. And we've got our argument going in. So arg is our parameter value variable name here. So we're going to say right here it's 99. That's great. And then it's going to say I am changing the value. So there we go. And then we're going to say this right here, arg equals 0. You'll see a change here in change me. Notice it has no impact back in main for our value. Okay, so if I come over here and I say next again, now the value is 0. So it did change it, but only in this function. Okay, so when I go back, so here's where I left off, back in main the value is, it will still be 99. Okay, so just because I changed it here does not mean it will change it here. Now, there are things you can do to impact that, and we will take a look at that actually in section 5.8, because you may want to make a change in here and then send a value back. And so the way to do that is with a return function, and we will do that, like I said, in section 5.8. So anyway, there's a lot to take a look at in here. Hopefully this video helps. Take a look at this stuff, play with some of the code. Try some of the challenges, MyLab, that stuff, and you remember me, come back. And I know this is a hefty one; it's kind of a long video, but this is a big section. It's really important that you understand how things work here. Okay, so have fun, and hope you'll enjoy this one. And this is a good one.